A very warm welcome to my channel, guys, and we are going to discuss the poem Dulce Et Decorum Est, written by Wilfred Owen. It is an anti-war poem written during the time of the First World War. Okay. The title of the poem, Dulce Et Decorum Est, when translated to English from Latin, means it is sweet and proper. These words have been taken from a poem of a very famous Roman poet named Horace. Now, Horace was an ancient Roman poet who once wrote in one of his poems, Dulce et decorum est pro patria mori, that is, it is sweet and proper to die for your country. What Horace meant to say in his poem was that one should not be afraid to fight a war and shed his life for his country. That shows true patriotism. Now, the title of this poem has been taken from Horace's work. So what Wilfred Owen has done is that he has taken the first four words, Dulce et decorum est, from Horace's work and made it the title of this poem. Dulce et decorum est means it is sweet and proper. Now, as I told you earlier, it is an anti-war poem. And what it means to tell us is that it is against the ideas of Horace and other such propagandists of war. See, Wilfred Owen is a writer who is telling other fellow writers and authors not to glorify war, not to tell young people that they should fight in a war. Okay? It is because when one goes to fight in a war, one faces such bad conditions that no human deserves to face. In this poem, we are told how a young man, when attacked with chlorine gas and not able to put on his gas mask, has to suffer. This young person suffers so badly that one can get horrified. So this is the main theme of the poem. It is an anti-war poem. It is against all those people, all those writers, poets, and anybody else who glorifies war, who says that fighting a war is a nice thing, that fighting a war is bravery or something like that. He tells that it's not bravery. In the end of the poem, he will write, Dulce et decorum est pro patria mori is a lie. That is, sweet and proper to die for your country is a lie. He will tell that such people who glorify war should see how people who go to fight a war have to suffer, how miserable their condition is, and once they see, none of the poets or the authors or no other propagandist is going to be able to, glorify war again. So I hope you are clear with the background of the poem. It is an anti-war poem which is dedicated to any propagandist of war. It tells people and any people who glorify war that you should not glorify war at all, since once a person starts going to a war, his whole life becomes miserable. And also, war is futile for everyone. It is of no use. It kills many innocent people. So let us begin with the stanza-wise explanation. Coming to the first stanza, in this stanza, a group of soldiers who has just fought a war, is returning to their camps to rest for some time. Okay. Now, after fighting a war, you can imagine that the soldiers are extremely tired. They are extremely tired. They are oblivious of their surroundings. They don't know what to do, and they're just walking towards the place of rest. They're going to rest for some time. So, the first stanza describes the situation of the soldiers after the war. So let us begin. Bent double like old beggars under sacks, knock-kneed, coughing like hags. We cursed through sludge, till on the haunting flares we turned our backs, and towards a distant rest began to trudge. Men marched asleep, many had lost their boots, but limped on bloodshot. All went lame, all blind, drunk with fatigue, deaf even to the hoots of tired, outstripped 5-9s that dropped behind. The first line says, bent double like old beggars under sacks. That means these young soldiers were so exhausted after fighting the war that they were not able to walk straight. They were bent double. That means their body was curved. They were not able to walk straight. They were like old beggars who wear sacks. In spite of being so young, their condition has become like that of old beggars. Knock-kneed, their legs are so tired they have given way that their knees are touching each other when they are walking. Their legs have become kind of deformed, coughing like hags, and they are coughing like old women. In spite of being young, we cursed through sludge, and they are moving very slowly towards their place of rest, towards their camps to rest for some time. Sludge means soft mud, on the soft mud. Till on the haunting flares we turned our backs. They have just finished fighting a war. That place where the war had taken place is full of haunting flares. That means dangerous bursts of fire are there. And now they are walking away from that place. That means they have turned their backs towards it. And towards a distant rest began to trudge, and they are moving very slowly to their camp, to their place of rest, which is distant, which is far away. Men marched asleep. Now, the men were kind of unconscious. They did not know what was going on in their surroundings. They were just walking. They did not know the purpose of why they were moving forward. Many had lost their boots. So many of the soldiers were barefoot. They were not wearing their boots, but limbed on, bloodshot. They were just moving on and on, extremely slowly. Some of them were bleeding. All went lame, all blind. They were lame, they were blind. They were just walking, oblivious of all the surroundings. They did not know about anything that was happening around. They did not care. They were so dead tired. Drunk with fatigue, deaf even to the hoots. They were drunk with tiredness. So the stanza tells us their condition was extremely miserable. They were extremely tired. They were deaf even to the loud sounds of tired, outstripped 5.9s that dropped behind. Now explosive shells that have been used beyond their capacity were dropping behind them, but they were unaware of everything. They were just walking towards their place of rest. They were so tired after fighting the war, so bad their condition was. In the next stanza, we get to know that the enemy attacks on these soldiers who are returning to their places of rest out of the blue, and they are attacked with chlorine gas. All of the soldiers are able to put on their gas mask to protect their lives, but one of the soldiers is unable to do so, and he has to suffer extremely badly, and that is what is explained in this stanza. Gas, gas, quick boys, an ecstasy of fumbling. So suddenly what happens is that the enemies attack them, and chlorine gas shells are released on them. So someone shouts, gas, gas, quick boys. That means gas has been released, put on your gas masks, quick boys. An ecstasy of fumbling. There is confusion and chaos all around suddenly. They suddenly wake up, they are startled, and they fumble. That means they just begin to search for their helmets, for what they have and everything else. Fitting the clumsy helmets just in time. Many of them are able to fit their helmets. The clumsy helmets mean that the equipment that they have is not very good. Fitting the clumsy helmets just in time. So just in time, in order to save their lives, they are able to put on their helmets. But someone still was yelling out and stumbling. But one of the soldiers was not able to put on the gas mask, and he was shouting and stumbling. Stumbling means falling, and flound'ring like a man in fire or lime. And the narrator could see that his situation was like he was so badly struggling that it seemed he's being burned alive or has been dipped into a pool of lime. He was struggling in such a bad way. You can understand how painful it might be for the person who was not able to put on the gas mask. Dim through the misty panes. Now there is chlorine gas all around, so he could not see perfectly clearly, but whatever he is able to see, he can see that as under a green sea, I saw him drowning. There was green light all around because of the chlorine gas, which is green in color. As under a green sea, I saw him drowning. So it seemed like he was drowning in the sea of the chlorine gas that was released. He was crying for help. He was agitating, shouting, dying. You can understand how miserable he was. And the narrator could see his horrific condition. As under a green sea, I saw him drowning. In all my dreams, before my helpless sight, he plunges at me, guttering, choking, drowning. Now what happens is that that man falls on the narrator, guttering, choking, drowning. That means he was making gurgling sounds because he might be puking something out of his mouth, choking, he was not able to breathe, and drowning. It seemed like his situation was like that of a man who is drowning in a sea. If in some smothering dreams you too could pace behind the wagon that we flung in him. Now, the you in this stanza is mainly addressed to those poets who glorify war. What does he tell? What does the poet tell those people, those authors or those propagandists who glorify war? That if in some smothering dreams, that means if in some bad dream, you too could pace behind the wagon that we flung in him. You could follow that wagon. You could run behind that wagon in which the soldier was put, in which that man who was not able to put on his gas mask was put. So what might have happened is that them to give him some first aid, to give him some treatment, he must have been put into a wagon. And now the narrator is addressing those propagandists of war that if in some smothering dreams, if in some extremely terrible dream, you could follow that wagon that he was put into and watch the white eyes writhing in his face and see how badly his eyes were twisting with pain, his hanging face like a devil sick of sin, and see his face was like that of a devil. We know that a devil is guilty of sin, a devil commits sins, and that is why he looks so ugly and disgusting. And this boy was innocent, he was just fighting for his country. He is also looking like a devil. So a devil is compared with this boy because, just like a devil is guilty of sin, and he looks so disgusting. And similarly, the poet tries to convey the idea that he is guilty of fighting in the war. Such heinous thing war is, that his face had become like that of a devil, his hanging face like a devil sick of sin. If you could hear at every jolt the blood come gurgling from the froth corrupted lungs, at every jolt the road might not have been perfect, and the wagon jolted every now and then, and as the wagon jolted, he puked out blood from his mouth. The blood came gurgling from the froth corrupted lungs. Now his lungs are infected badly with chlorine gas. There are fumes inside his body, and so he's spitting blood out. It looked as obscene as cancer. That means it looked disgusting. One could not even see it. It was so disgusting a sight to see. Bitter as the cud. Now cud is that material that animals like cows, buffaloes, etc. have to chew. They once take it inside their stomach, it's digested, but then it comes back from the stomach to the mouth, and it is extremely bitter. Now cows, buffaloes, these all are innocent animals, okay? But they have to chew the cud, which is extremely bitter and which causes painful sores in their mouths. And similarly with this boy, he was also innocent, but this blood was just like that was coming out from his mouth was just like the cud which is on the mouths of these innocent animals. So the writer, Wilfred Owen, wants to tell us that although this boy was innocent, just because of fighting in the war, he was suffering so badly, like no human deserves to suffer. A vile, incurable sores on innocent tongues. As I told you, that this cud is extremely unpleasant and it causes painful sores in the mouth of these ruminant animals like cows and buffaloes. And similarly, the blood that was coming out from the mouth of this boy is also like cud. Now, my friend, you would not tell with such high zest. Now the poet says, that means Wilfred Owen says, my friend is all those propagandists of war, all those poets, all those authors and other propagandists who glorify war. They are addressed as my friend. So the poet says, if you can see how miserable the condition of that boy was, you will never ever glorify war again. You would not tell with such high zest. You would never ever tell with such enthusiasm to children ardent for some desperate glory, to youngsters, to young people who want instant fame, that go and fight the war. The poet says that once you see how badly these young people suffer when they go to fight in the war, you will never ever say again to young people that go and fight in the war. Okay. To children ardent of some desperate glory, the old lie. And now the poem concludes the poem by saying, the old lie, dulce et decorum est pro patria mori. That means what Horace had said, that dulce et decorum est pro patria mori, that it is sweet and proper to die for your country, is a lie. It is not sweet and proper to die for your country. Because when you go to die for your country, you have to fight a war. So the poet is urging all those people who propagate war to just have a look at the condition of the people who are fighting in the war. They have to suffer miserably, and once they see the condition, they will never ever tell them this lie again, that dulce et decorum est pro patria mori. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, please ask in the comment section below. I'm ready to answer all of your questions. Like, comment, share and subscribe. Thank you so much.